Robert Oppenheimer's Secret: One Exercise for a Powerful Immune System. If you've ever found yourself captivated by the stories of brilliant scientists, those larger-than-life figures who changed the course of history through intense focus and an unquenchable thirst for knowledge, then you've probably heard the name Robert Oppenheimer more than once. Known as the father of the atomic bomb, Oppenheimer's life was a tapestry of intellectual achievements, moral dilemmas, and philosophical reflections that still resonate profoundly today. But beyond the headline-grabbing legacy of his role in the Manhattan Project, whispers exist of a lesser-known aspect of Oppenheimer's daily life, an exercise he reputedly embraced to bolster his physical vitality and, crucially, his immune system. Could it be that the man who unraveled the secrets of atomic nuclei also discovered a surprisingly simple yet potent way to strengthen the body's defenses? Such a claim might sound fanciful, almost like an urban legend. After all, when we think of Oppenheimer, we usually conjure images of intense theoretical debates, chalkboards covered with complex equations, and a man chain-smoking through late-night brainstorming sessions. Rarely do we picture him engaging in a practice akin to yoga, breath work, or some hidden form of meditative routine. Yet if we dig beneath the surface, we find intriguing hints, references in personal letters, anecdotes from colleagues, and kernels of wisdom in his speeches that suggest Oppenheimer's intellect wasn't limited to splitting the atom. He seemed keenly aware of the interplay between mind and body, between mental resilience and physical well-being, long before modern science popularized the idea that stress management and mental clarity can dramatically enhance immunity. Stay with me until the end, because in the final stretch of this exploration, we'll uncover the essence of Oppenheimer's rumored exercise, a deceptively simple but incredibly potent practice that can tune both your mental focus and the unseen army of immune cells that protect your body. Along the way, we'll journey through the labyrinth of Oppenheimer's life, the shifting sands of scientific and philosophical thought in the early 20th century, and the new frontiers of neuroscience and immunology that back up what Oppenheimer might have intuited many decades ago. By the time you finish reading, you'll see how this secret exercise could fit seamlessly into your own life, and why it might be exactly what you need to unlock a fresh dimension of health and vitality. Robert Oppenheimer was born in 1904 to a wealthy family in New York City, where he displayed astonishing intellectual gifts from a young age. His pursuit of knowledge led him to Harvard, then to Cambridge and Göttingen, where he rubbed shoulders with luminaries such as Max Born and Werner Heisenberg. From early on, Oppenheimer's letters convey an unusual blend of scientific rigor and philosophical openness. He was as likely to quote Hindu scriptures or delve into ethical questions as he was to expound upon quantum mechanics. In fact, his affinity for Eastern philosophy is well documented. He famously cited the Bhagavad Gita during pivotal moments in his life, most notably after the Trinity test in 1945, when he recalled the line, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." This deep engagement with Eastern thought, particularly the Hindu tradition, offers our first hint that Oppenheimer's worldview included an interest in the harmonious relationship between mind, body, and universe. Though often overshadowed by stories of nuclear physics, his diaries and personal conversations suggest that Oppenheimer found solace in meditative reflection, drawing parallels between quantum uncertainty and the spiritual teachings that emphasize unity and impermanence. One can imagine him, after a long day wrangling subatomic theories, seeking refuge in quiet moments of introspection, moments that may have evolved into a more structured practice over time. Yet how does this tie into the realm of physical immunity? Jumping forward several decades, modern science has demonstrated that mind-body exercises, such as mindfulness-based stress reduction, diaphragmatic breathing, or gentle movement routines, can modulate stress hormones and activate immune pathways. High stress levels, something Oppenheimer undoubtedly contended with during the Manhattan Project, are known to suppress immune function. Therefore, if he was searching for a technique to stabilize his nerves, he might inadvertently, or perhaps deliberately, have stumbled upon a powerful immunological ally. It's not that Oppenheimer penned any direct treatises on immunity. No known manuscripts detail a formal Oppenheimer immune protocol. But those close to him recollected that he occasionally performed short sessions of focused breathing or posture work, perhaps influenced by his readings of Eastern texts. Some recounted him gently guiding younger physicists through moments of stressful anticipation, reminding them to breathe and center themselves. These offhand remarks, overshadowed by the epic-defining drama of atomic weapons, never gained the spotlight. Nevertheless, they point to a man who understood that the mind could wield a profound influence over the body's equilibrium. The times in which Oppenheimer lived were also crucial. The early to mid-20th century witnessed an explosion in scientific thought, but the frontier of the mind-body connection remained relatively unexplored in Western academia. Sigmund Freud had brought the unconscious mind into public discourse, but mainstream medicine was still far from acknowledging that mental practices might optimize immunity. Today, the fields of psychoneuroimmunology and epigenetics confirm that emotional states, lifestyle habits, and even the stories we tell ourselves can significantly affect how our immune cells operate. But in Oppenheimer's era, such notions were on the fringe, something you might glean from foreign philosophies rather than from standard medical texts. Let's linger a bit on Oppenheimer's personality during the Manhattan Project. A relentless pace of 18-hour days, nerve-wracking deadlines, and the weight of moral responsibility. Oppenheimer was known to be a chain smoker, a habit hardly conducive to robust health. One might guess that if he didn't have a stabilizing practice of some sort, the anxiety of potentially ushering in a new age of warfare could have overwhelmed him. The project's success hinged not just on intellectual brilliance, but on emotional stamina, the ability to weather intense psychological storms. Perhaps what he gleaned from his fascination with Eastern texts offered him that anchor, a space each day to recenter, to breathe, to remind himself that behind the swirl of fission calculations and ethical conundrums lay a calm, still point of clarity. We now turn to the heart of this story. Oppenheimer's rumored one exercise. Contemporary accounts, admittedly few and somewhat cryptic, mention him occasionally instructing colleagues to stand in a relaxed position, close their eyes, and focus on measured, rhythmic breaths. He would demonstrate a slow inhale through the nose, holding it gently for a moment, then letting it out in a controlled exhale. Along with this breathing pattern, he might incorporate a simple posture adjustment, rolling the shoulders back to open the chest. Some even say he would utter a short mantra or phrase, though the content of that mantra is lost to time. While it might not seem revolutionary today, this method was far from typical among Western scientists in the 1930s and 1940s. If we put ourselves in Oppenheimer's shoes, we can imagine a conversation in a cramped office in Los Alamos. Tensions run high. A colleague who hasn't slept properly for days is on the verge of an anxiety attack. Oppenheimer, with a quiet steadiness, suggests, stand here, breathe deeply, hold it for a moment, then exhale fully. Feel your body weight anchored to the floor. Envision the tension leaving as you exhale. After a few rounds, that colleague might notice a slight tingling in the fingertips, a calmer heartbeat, and a clearer mental space. That feeling of clarity could stoke the immune system in the background. By reducing stress hormones like cortisol, the body can redirect resources back to immune functions. This possible scenario underscores why Oppenheimer's so-called secret can be relevant today. We live in a world riddled with stressors, from frantic work schedules to information overload on social media. Chronic stress has become the unspoken epidemic of our time, undermining immune defenses in subtle yet destructive ways. If a few minutes of focused breathing were enough to help a brilliant mind navigate the moral and intellectual abyss of atomic warfare, then maybe it can help us navigate our modern labyrinth of deadlines and digital demands. Science now supports the idea that deep, slow breathing triggers the parasympathetic nervous system, commonly referred to as the rest and digest response. This physiological state is associated with repair, rejuvenation, and enhanced immune activity. Before we explore the precise mechanism of Oppenheimer's rumored practice, let's pause for a moment. How do you currently respond to daily stresses, be they from work, relationships, or uncertain world events? Do you have a personal routine that helps you stay balanced? Or do you often feel overwhelmed? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. It's a reflective question that invites you to examine whether you might benefit from a structured exercise that fosters calm and fortifies your immune system. Continuing our journey, it's illuminating to see how Oppenheimer's approach parallels certain yogic and qigong traditions, both of which revolve around breath control and deliberate body awareness. Even though there's no record of him formally studying yoga under a guru or practicing qigong with a master, his philosophical leanings and wide-ranging interests in Eastern concepts make it entirely plausible he would experiment with breath-focused exercises. The beauty of these practices lies in their simplicity. You don't need specialized equipment, a gym membership, or an elaborate spiritual framework. All you need is your breath and a few minutes of uninterrupted space. One might argue that Oppenheimer's greatest legacy, beyond the physical realm of nuclear technology, was his capacity to integrate seeming opposites: scientific rationalism and spiritual intuition, Western intellectual rigor and Eastern wisdom traditions, the pursuit of knowledge and the acceptance of life's mysteries. A daily breath exercise stands at the intersection of these dichotomies, merging the physical and metaphysical in a single, cohesive act. Breathe in, hold, release, center your mind, anchor your body. It's both prosaic and profound. To appreciate how breath work can impact immunity, let's delve into a bit of modern physiology. When we perceive stress, our body releases cortisol and other stress mediators that temporarily heighten alertness and energy. This response is adaptive in the short run. It's the classic fight-or-flight mechanism. However, chronic elevation of these hormones impairs immune cell function, making us more susceptible to infections and even influencing the development or worsening of inflammatory conditions. Deep, slow breathing encourages the vagus nerve, an integral part of the parasympathetic nervous system, to slow the heart rate, reduce blood pressure, and curb excessive cortisol secretion. Over time, consistent practice can reset our stress baseline to a more manageable level, thereby granting the immune system room to function at its peak. Interestingly, some researchers have studied advanced meditators and breathwork practitioners, like certain yogis, and discovered that their immune profiles exhibit higher natural killer cell activity and more balanced inflammatory responses. While we can't claim that a few daily breath exercises guarantee perfect health, the cumulative evidence strongly suggests that mindful breathing can be a cornerstone habit in an overall disease-preventive lifestyle. Oppenheimer, with his acute awareness of existential threats and a never-ending stream of scientific challenges, likely found that this daily habit kept him from buckling under the enormous weight he carried. While the Manhattan Project concluded with the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, Oppenheimer's personal journey continued with profound reflections on the moral implications of nuclear warfare. He served as chairman of the General Advisory Committee of the Atomic Energy Commission and later faced political ostracism during the Red Scare. Throughout these trials, he maintained a composed demeanor, one that many found inscrutable yet undeniably dignified. We can only guess how much his breath-centered practice contributed to this composure. One might interpret it as an undercurrent of calm that allowed him to endure professional betrayals, public controversies, and internal guilt over the destructive power he had helped unleash. At this juncture, it's worth mentioning that the secret exercise we're about to detail doesn't appear in any official statement from Oppenheimer. Instead, it's pieced together through personal testimony, anecdotal remarks, and historical inferences. Still, its essence aligns closely with well-researched breathwork routines, a series of mindful inhales, gentle breath retentions, and controlled exhales. For the modern person, 10 to 15 minutes a day of such a practice can significantly ease stress, align the nervous system with a calmer rhythm, and bolster immune efficiency. Perhaps the best way to see if this rings true for you is to try it yourself. Here is a simple version, adapted from the fragments attributed to Oppenheimer's rumored habit, but updated with modern insights. Find a quiet space, stand or sit in a comfortable, upright posture, ensuring your spine is aligned. Roll your shoulders back softly to open your chest. Close your eyes. Eliminate visual distractions. Focus your awareness inward. Slow inhale. Inhale gently through your nose for a count of 4 or 5, feeling the air expand your abdomen first, then your rib cage, and finally your upper chest. Brief hold. Pause for a count of 2, maintaining a sense of relaxed openness rather than gripping. Controlled exhale. Exhale through your nose or mouth if that feels more comfortable, for a count of 5 or 6, letting go of tension as you release the breath. Rhythmic repetition. Repeat this cycle for at least 5 minutes, ideally extending up to 10 or 15 minutes if you can. Let thoughts come and go without attaching to them, returning your focus to the breath whenever your mind drifts. Optional mantra. If you like, incorporate a silent phrase, perhaps something neutral like "I am calm," "I am here." Or, if you feel connected to Oppenheimer's interests, use a line from philosophical text that speaks to you. Over time, you may notice a subtle shift in how you handle stress, how quickly you recover from daily pressures, or even how often you succumb to colds and other infections. Of course, life is multifaceted and many factors influence health. Nonetheless, the synergy between mindful breathing and immune support is one of the most compelling stories modern science has to tell. At this point, you might be wondering, is there a more dynamic or physical component to Oppenheimer's exercise, something that engages the muscles and joints in addition to breath? Historical snippets do hint that he occasionally performed a very gentle series of stretches or simple poses, likely borrowed from rudimentary yoga or qigong references he encountered in his eclectic reading. However, the core of the practice always returned to breath awareness. The subtlety is key. Unlike intense workouts that can, in some cases, momentarily elevate stress markers, this exercise is designed to calm the system, creating an environment conducive to healing and regeneration. Remember, Oppenheimer lived through an era of minimal scientific consensus on such matters. If he championed breathing exercises, he did so with an experimentalist's curiosity and a philosopher's open heart, rather than from a place of dogmatic certainty. And in truth, that might be the best approach for us, too. We can read dozens of articles praising mindfulness, but until we personally experiment with it, repeating it daily for weeks or even months, we won't know the depths to which it can shape our immune resilience. Let's pause again for another reflective question. If you already practice a daily or occasional routine, be it exercise, meditation, or even a quiet cup of tea in solitude, what shifts have you noticed in your stress levels and overall health? Do you think adding a short breathing session, such as the one rumored to be Oppenheimer's secret, could amplify those benefits? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments. Stepping away from the purely physical dimension, it's worthwhile to consider how breathwork fosters mental clarity and compassion, qualities Oppenheimer seemed to cherish. The same practice that steadies your pulse and lowers stress hormones can also give you a mental vantage point from which to contemplate ethical dilemmas or personal challenges with greater nuance. By cultivating calm, we often find that empathy and rational thought flow more freely. This synergy might have played a pivotal role for Oppenheimer, who is constantly straddling the line between scientific progress and moral responsibility. A stable immune system, after all, doesn't merely protect our bodies. It often correlates with stable moods and mental well-being, too. Furthermore, if we look at Oppenheimer's intellectual legacy after World War II, we see a man increasingly concerned with global harmony, nuclear arms control, and the ethical deployment of scientific discoveries. Could daily breath work have contributed to a broadened perspective, one that recognized the interconnectedness of all beings in a manner reminiscent of Eastern philosophies? It's speculative, yet compelling. The moral weight of atomic science demanded a perspective unburdened by reflexive fear or narrow self-interest, qualities that mindful breathing can help dissolve. Let's pivot to the modern era for a moment. We have advanced imaging techniques that can observe the brain in real time, revealing how controlled breathing practices reduce activity in the amygdala, the fear center, and increase connectivity in areas linked to executive function and self-regulation. We have studies measuring reduced inflammatory markers, like interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, after periods of consistent meditative or breath-centered practices. We see modern corporations and health institutions introducing mindfulness training to reduce burnout and improve overall well-being. In short, the notion that a simple, deliberate breathing exercise can trigger wide-ranging improvements, including a more robust immune response, is no longer fringe theory, but a recognized, evidence-based principle. This begs the question, had Oppenheimer lived in our time, might he have become a vocal advocate for breath work and stress management? Would he have published a short guide or integrated these lessons into a lecture series on the ethical responsibilities of scientists? Perhaps so. Certainly, his letters and interviews show that he was always hungry for new ways to harmonize knowledge, morality, and human betterment. A daily breath practice fits snugly into that overarching mission. Now, let's bring everything together into the practical steps you can apply. Each day, ideally in the morning or evening, find a quiet corner. Stand or sit comfortably. Roll your shoulders back. Breathe and slowly hold. Exhale slowly. Visualize tension leaving your body as you exhale. If your mind wanders, chasing thoughts about errands or deadlines, acknowledge them gently and return to the breath. Over time, you'll refine your technique, lengthening the breath cycle, refining your posture, perhaps even integrating affirmations that resonate with your personal values. The immediate outcome is a calmer nervous system. The long-term outcome, if modern research holds true, may be fewer sick days, faster recovery times, and a generalized sense of resilience that permeates all aspects of life. And here we approach the final revelation promised at the outset. The Oppenheimer secret is, at its heart, nothing more than a daily, mindful breathing exercise. No exotic potions, no elaborate ceremonies, just the fundamental, life-sustaining act of respiration done with care and focus. Yet like all truly profound truths, its simplicity belies its transformative potential. In the same way that splitting the atom unveiled unimaginable energy within the fabric of matter, harnessing the basic rhythm of your breath can unlock remarkable reserves of vitality within your body's immune and nervous systems. Of course, life being what it is, no single habit, no matter how powerful, can overshadow the importance of a balanced diet, sufficient sleep, regular physical activity, and supportive relationships. The synergy of these elements creates a truly robust platform for health. Oppenheimer, by most accounts, was far from a saint in his personal choices, particularly with regard to smoking and the all-consuming nature of his work. So we should resist romanticizing him as some sort of perfect health guru. Rather, we can see him as a brilliant, flawed individual who stumbled upon, or deliberately practiced, a method of preserving his sanity, fueling his creativity, and fortifying his body amid circumstances that would crush most of us. That's reason enough to pay attention. In these tumultuous modern times, where viral outbreaks and chronic diseases loom large on our collective radar, the call to strengthen our immune systems has never been more urgent. The best approaches often blend ancient wisdom with cutting-edge science. Oppenheimer's quiet breath practice sits precisely at that crossroads. It's reminiscent of ancient yogic or meditative techniques, validated now by modern biomedical research. So the next time you find yourself overwhelmed by the news, your inbox, or the swirl of your own restless mind, remember that a simple solution may lie in the same quiet, rhythmic act that sustained one of the greatest scientific minds of the 20th century. Let's pose one final question before concluding. How might your life change if you dedicated just 10 minutes each day to deliberate, mindful breathing? Especially if you treated it not as an optional relaxation exercise, but as a vital cornerstone of your physical and mental well-being? Picture the ripple effects: improved mood, fewer colds, deeper focus in your projects, enhanced relationships, due to a calmer disposition, and maybe, just maybe, a spark of the kind of creative brilliance that guided Oppenheimer through his remarkable career. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes, stating your intention publicly can be the catalyst that transforms a casual idea into a lasting life upgrade. In closing, if you take nothing else from this narrative, take this. Robert Oppenheimer's life story, though often overshadowed by the moral quandaries of nuclear physics, also holds an understated lesson in self-care and inner mastery. Whether he discovered his unique exercise by reading the Bhagavad Gita or gleaned it through personal experimentation with stress relief, the principle remains the same. Within the breath, we find a powerful link between mind and body, a link that can recalibrate our immune system, center our emotions, and prime us for greater resilience. Give it a try. You may find that in the hush of each slow inhale and exhale, you unearth something far mightier than the chaos of the world outside. A stable, enduring force that fosters genuine health and clarity, day after day. That might just be the true secret Oppenheimer left behind for us all.